Opening shot. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bavino gets a pause on his assignment to check in with a federal judge every night. The 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals granted a stay in lower court Judge Sarah Ellis's requirement that Bavino report to her daily on CBP's immigration and use of force actions. Plaintiffs have until tomorrow to respond. It'll give Bavino more time to prepare for a 5-hour deposition tomorrow with plaintiffs' attorneys, all stemming from the case brought by the Chicago Headline Club against Bavino and DHS for their use of force tactics against protesters. Now today, plaintiffs argued that DHS must hand over a slickly edited video they put up on social media, making their case that use of force was necessary because of threats from demonstrators. And to add to the drama today, a short-lived bomb scare at the Dirksen Federal Building, and obstruction of law enforcement charges brought today by the Department of Justice against protesters that were at Broadview several weeks ago, allegedly blocking DHS vehicles. Many of those defendants happen to be candidates running for elected office, and one of them already fundraising and creating content off of their indictment. Which brings me to a point I'd like to reiterate about Operation Midway Blitz and some of the observations from a handful of times I've spent covering the activities outside the Broadview facility. For every protester passionate about their opposition to the deportation efforts, for every federal agent committed to carrying it out, there are reams of content creators that show up. They want their pound of flesh. They maraud around the crowd looking to get into a confrontation in hopes it might spawn that coveted viral moment. And we've seen it from some, particularly one, candidate for Congress who doubles as a political influencer. But nobody matches the sheer output of content that Mr. Bavino himself puts out. The camera crew always seemingly everywhere he goes, including yesterday when he left the Dirksen Federal Building doing whatever it is that he's doing there with hand gestures before getting in the car and leaving. Now, tomorrow's 5-hour deposition featuring Mr. Bavino will be behind closed doors, but if it ever becomes public, expect it to be rich with content as well.
Tonight, transit tug of war. Illinois House leaders come up with a massive transit bailout proposal. But Governor Pritzker says it could be dead before it even leaves the station. Justice for Sonya Massey. Former Illinois police officer Sean Grayson convicted on second-degree murder charges. Shutdown showdown. Could Democrats and Republicans finally come together as SNAP benefits are set to expire? And a former Chicago alderman and current business owner begs Mayor Johnson to scrap the proposed employee head tax.
Welcome to the Chicago Report. I'm Paris Schutz. A lot to get to, so let's start with this. After months of negotiations, Illinois House members unveil a $1.5 billion proposal to rescue CTA, PACE, and Metra. But Governor Pritzker says not so fast.
As it is, it's not going forward. There's got to be a lot of discussion between the House and the Senate in order to come up with a final bill, because it isn't going to look like what the House has put forward.
Governor Pritzker pouring a massive bowl of cold water on the latest transit proposal, a big piece of legislation that emerged late last night in the Illinois House. It would provide $1.5 billion in new funding to bail out CTA, PACE, and Metra, as well as downstate transit agencies. The House proposes the money will come from a 7% amusement tax on concerts and special events, adding to already existing county and city of Chicago amusement taxes. New speed cameras in the suburbs where half the revenue would go to the state, and a first-of-its-kind tax on unrealized assets over $1 billion, a so-called billionaire's tax, affecting Governor Pritzker himself. The governor says the proposal hasn't even been vetted.
It's a tax on unrealized capital gains. It's never been done before. Never been done before by any state, never been done by the federal government. So once again, you got to do a whole lot of work before you can pass a bill that, if you don't even know how it would work or whether you could actually collect on it.
The bill would also create a new interagency committee to coordinate between CTA, PACE, and Metra. Transit advocates hit the ground running today despite the governor's pessimism, hoping to convince lawmakers to sign on.
The total must add up to at least $1.5 billion in new revenue each year for the Northern Illinois Transit Authority, so that people like my parishioner can live and move in our state on reliable, safe, modern transit system that Illinois deserves.
Earlier this year, the state Senate advanced a proposal that would institute new taxes on rideshare and delivery services, but it stalled in the House. The governor's comments today threaten to derail plans to pass a bill before the end of the fall veto session tomorrow. and failure to pass could lead to fare hikes and service cuts next year.
We've got to pass something, and we cannot get stuck at no. We've got to find ways to get to yes.
And we'll see what comes out of that as one day is left in this fall veto session. And another big story downstate today. A Peoria jury convicts former Illinois Police Deputy Sean Grayson on second-degree murder charges in the killing of Springfield resident Sonya Massey. And the conviction could carry a sentence of anywhere between probation to 20 years. And joining us now is Fox 32 legal analyst Karen Conti to react to this news today. Karen, second-degree murder, this is very similar to what Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke got in the high-profile Laquan McDonald murder trial. So just remind us again the difference between first degree and second degree.
First degree murder is intention to kill, and there's no defenses. Second degree is basically that he believed his life was in danger or his bodily integrity was in danger, but when he used deadly force, he was unreasonable in doing that. And so this is sort of a middle ground between that first degree charge and an outright acquittal.
At the same time, does this represent justice, do you believe, for the Massey family?
Well, I know that they were upset with not getting the first degree murder, but you know, you go to a jury and jurors have preconceived notions. It could have been a compromise verdict, meaning some people could have thought there should have been an acquittal, and some thought there should have been first degree. But I think he's going to do significant time in prison. I'm quite sure that the sentence is not going to be probation, and you know, they did settle civilly for $10 million. Not that that's going to bring their loved one back, but there is a message there that this guy did something wrong and that police need to be better trained and they need to de-escalate before they take out their weapon.
Does it underscore how difficult it is to get a consensus on a murder charge for a police officer? Because like you said, second degree, there might have been some sort of danger here, but the police officer, the jury finds, was not justified in using deadly force.
I think it's difficult because I think the defense generally makes a very good argument, as the Laquan McDonald murder defendant did, that, listen, you can't put yourself in his shoes. He makes split decisions every day. And although you're watching this video and it looks like he wasn't in danger, at least in my view, you don't know that because you don't know the distances and you don't know what she's capable of. And so those arguments go over with some jurors and do not go over with other jurors.
And I remember talking to Van Dyke's attorney at the time, who had considered it a good outcome for his client because his client was going to have an opportunity to get his life back, to come out of prison. And you're saying you don't believe a judge would sentence Mr. Grayson to probation. What do you think will factor into the sentence here?
Well, I think that, you know, first of all, he has no priors really. And so I think that that's going to go in his favor. But I think the public nature of this is going to drive this judge to set an example, which is perfectly fine. Judges can use a public example to issue a sentence. And I think that the message should go out to all police departments in Illinois that you need to de-escalate. You need to train your people on when you can use deadly force. And listen, de-escalation, this guy could have turned around and left the apartment. If he was so afraid of that boiling pot of water, in my view, he could have just left, because if she's a harm to herself, you can't use deadly force to kill somebody to protect them. That makes no sense. So I think it's going to be a significant sentence, and I think he will see the light of day and he'll have a life afterwards, but he's going to pay for his crime.
Karen Conti, before I let you go, on a completely unrelated topic, I don't know if you saw the news that the Seventh Circuit Appeals Court issued a stay on the lower court judge Sarah Ellis's ruling that Gregory Bavino had to come report to her every night. What's your split reaction to that?
Well, I don't know that that means that they're going to rule in his favor. I do think that maybe there needs to be more facts elicited at the trial level so that, you know, we know whether or not this is going to impact his ability to do his job. And I think that was the argument, that if you have him sitting in that courtroom every day at 5 o'clock, he's not going to be out doing his job, and his job is an important thing to do. So I think that's the argument. I think the Seventh Circuit is probably going to make a decision very quickly.
All right, Karen Conti, 2 for 1 here. Thank you so much, as always.
Harris, take care.
And when we come back, will Illinois join the national redistricting fight and give Democrats an even greater advantage in this state than they already have? Stay with us.